How much more intelligent are you compared to the previous Albert?
Well, it's hard to compare, like 100-fold, just by using this knowledge.
We had proof of concept around 1 to 2 weeks ago.
This is the end of one era in mankind and the start of a new one.
It's just something that might be out of control at some point.
I think people should still be skeptical and see like what's going on.
This can really lead to hysteria.
I want to try it because if it allows me to unlock my potential.
This is not just a psychological revolution, this is also a revolution in terms of how much more intelligent the human species will be.
One of the first things I did was Google this, and there was no search results.
I just want to get there for myself. For my own sake.
I don't see how we can stop it. It's already happening. People will be craving for it, they will be begging for it. You know why I think this is going to change the world? Because it's going to spread like a virus.
Some of us come from a financial background, some of us come from science backgrounds like nanostructure sciences, computer sciences, some of us are programmers and game developers, and Albert is a award-winning algorithm expert. We're a group of people from all over the world with different backgrounds. We work together on charity projects and projects that raise awareness around issues such as net neutrality or even things like neuroscience in ways that can help enhance critical thinking. For many years it was mostly Athene using his exceptional mathematical skills and determination to set records in video games as well as online poker, where he's very well known. His fame was sort of part of the plan to get a following so that we have an audience that we can direct towards more important issues. So over the past years we've been in Liberia during the Ebola outbreak to document it and fundraise for it. And more recently we were in Ethiopia during one of the worst droughts in past decades. Our current research connects with an emerging field in science called neurotheology. In 2014, a research team in Brazil managed to replicate the God helmet experiment of the early 90s, using specific patterns of weak magnetic fields to induce mystical experiences and altered states that subjects describe in ways very similar to religious experiences. These experiments are pretty great in helping us understand what religion does to the brain. We found a way to permanently replicate these altered states without magnetic stimulation or any device at all.
Okay, so at the moment the atmosphere is like kind of surreal.
What is quite fascinating, I think, is then when people experience this shift. One guy, for example, said he would hold back because he just wanted to check if this is real. What I see with people happening, they know afterwards, they know something changed drastically, and it stays.
In addition to this, all subjects report increased intelligence, which can be measured with math exercises and memory exercises before and after. What's remarkable is that it takes only 4 simple steps, although it can be a very scary experience.
It's too scary to do the jump, basically. I tried and I was just shaking in the room, and the fear is just too big.
In step 3, the subjects went through a process of deep dissociation. In order to understand the experiment, we must first look at what this means. Though there are many forms of dissociation in psychology, our research indicates it's usually the result of detaching from a concept that relates to a core emotion and has been strongly associated with the brain's reward system. These concepts can be comfort or success or money or God. Many people experience dissociation at certain points in their life, and depending on how fast their brain connects a new concept to the reward system, this can result in a paradigm shift or an identity crisis, which can lead to depression, as you no longer experience rewards from the same phenomena. The brain's ability to alter our most deeply conditioned motivations is part of what made humanity so flexible throughout its evolution. Even with the speed of mankind's progress and cultural changes, our relatively primitive brain has managed to keep up. For many, the brain's reward system is primarily focused on comfort. For some, it is God. Whatever it is that one submits to in order to satisfy the subconscious need for safety, the brain's reward systems will fire when actions are performed that are in line with it. This is why people like entertainment just as much as why they like to go to church. It is not because it is written in our DNA, but rather because we have been conditioned to connect our reward systems to it, in a process that psychology calls learned association with intrinsic rewards. In short, the brain has developed the ability to submit to an imaginary construct. This is what some evolutionary biologists think triggered the cognitive revolution 70,000 years ago, because it enabled us to start working together in larger groups. It quickly led to the development of myths and later religions, which were required for overcoming the obstacles of collectives that were no longer able to scale based on only interpersonal trust. Believing in a deity was a crucial step in our evolution. And now that we understand the underlying neurological mechanisms, we are able to forge the same connection by submitting to what really created us, which is the consistent patterns that bring about our reality.
He got a job offer from Google. He won algorithm test before he made the click. Now he says he's 100 times more intelligent.
It's not like 10% increase, it's more like 100-fold increase.
In psychoanalysis, cathexis is defined as the process of investing emotional energy or a mental energy into a concept or an idea. Step 3 is the core of the process. It can be described as the deep cathexis transference towards the concept of logic.
Yeah, but they have to do step 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, they really have to do it. They really have to understand it. Step 3 is only possible and safe if you have the understandings of step 1 and 2. And what we saw here is that people can even have traumatic experiences when they go directly to step 3.
Not valuing or understanding the patterns that hold together the fabric of reality has serious consequences, such as disease, famine, or even death. We tend to forget the atrocious circumstances humans used to live in and can easily be left with a very diluted view on our current situation. When we reflect upon our most cherished memories, we tend to think of how we held our son or daughter for the very first time, or how we fell in love. But if it was not for our understanding of logic, the consistent patterns that bring about our reality, these memories would be tainted with death and misery instead. And if there was no logic to the inner workings of our universe, life and consciousness would not be possible. When we think about technology, we can easily argue how it has brought about a lot of suffering. But in doing so, we ignore what it has done for us. Smallpox is responsible for the deaths of more than 300 million people and was eradicated in 1980. Famine is being eliminated as well. In 2014, 850 million people suffered from malnutrition, the lowest figure on record. Meanwhile, 2.1 billion were overweight. In 1918, Spanish flu killed up to 100 million a year, compared to around 60 million who died in World War II. In 2014, the Ebola outbreak, the most severe public health emergency in modern times according to the World Health Organization, was stopped at 11,000 deaths. In 2012, 56 million people died, but war caused only 120,000 of those deaths. Our love for anything we hold dear is only made possible with our logical understandings. Valuing logic, rather than seeing it as something cold or neutral, is the essence of step 1. When we look at all the beauty around us, we're usually unaware of the underlying logical systems and patterns that bring it about, from mountains to flowers, or from galaxies to cells. Everything around us originates from them, including our DNA, and our comprehension of our own existence is the result of these patterns coming together in such complex and unique ways that they have come to understand themselves.
Our current research shows that there are two categories of people when exposed to this new data. While both groups understand that there's no arguing against the objective reality, one group has a much easier time to submit itself to these new findings, resulting in a deep transformation, while the other group holds onto whatever their intersubjective reality tells them. Interesting is that the latter is fully aware of the consequences, but have their inner child cling onto what they rationally understand is a delusion. This paradox is what brings about duality and most of our suffering. Step 2 is to uncover the subconscious kernel of it.
The following evolutionary anomaly is to blame for all the misery that mankind has inflicted upon one another, as well as for all the good that has come from it. It is the neuroscience of how, on a fundamental level, humans can connect any concept to their subconscious craving for safety, and by doing so, experience the actions and rationalizations that emerge from this as rewarding. This happens with every single one of us throughout our lives, and while this cathexis is omnipresent, we are not aware of the process and its consequences. We tend to go about our lives very normally, unaware that nearly all of our decisions are being subconsciously directed by this single mechanism. Being ignorant of this is not only what gives rise to our struggles and failures, but to all human-caused suffering. From our holy calling to die in a crusade in 1200, to our modern-day tendency to post selfies, everything can be brought back to a singular core value, one central emotion that dictates all of our behavior and reasoning. From believing in God to believing in what others think about us, the underlying forces all emerge from this subconscious emotional attachment, this inner child craving for safety, and the relentless pursuit of achieving it through what it has submitted itself to. Today, for many, it is comfort. For others, it can be validation or God. Finding this core value within is the essence of step 2, and is not only crucial to set yourself free, but is also vital to the future of humanity.
Step 3 concerns me. The safety checks are provided by step 1 and 4, but the current data shows that this is not enough. We provided the physical safety net location, but the number of placebo cases and imposters increased. This phenomenon is bringing about more data that can be analyzed, and additional peer review is urgently needed. Subjects that do not follow step 1 and 4 are rapidly increasing and exhibiting symptoms ranging from panic attacks to severe trauma.
extent to which we want to admit how self-centered we are is buried very deep within. The entire world could burn, and in many ways is burning. And even if redemption is right in front of us, our inner child could not care less, as long as it experiences an illusion of safety. The twist to this story is that even when we seem to feel good with what we value most deeply, we merely set ourselves up to suffer more. This varies from experiencing constant duality and a need for distraction to feeling deeply worthless and having a constant need to impress others. On a fundamental level, our will submits itself to a concept that goes against the essence of what we are. Someone who would go and die for a lost cause might seem deluded, but the idea that we consciously choose for the life we live is not any different. None of our illusions, conditioned entitlements, or attachments to shallow pleasures are responsible for moving us forward. The real driving force behind our progress is understanding the patterns that rule our lives and how they've given us the ability to thrive as a species. This reality is one we tend to lose track of too easily, for which we all continue to pay the price until we have the courage to fully admit it. When you allow yourself to come to this realization, which is an emotional process rather than a rational one, and you know that your love and trust for logic will provide a better paradigm and more safety than your current core value, you free yourself of the flawed paradigm that's been the cause of your duality and go through an instant transformation. This is the essence of step 3. For thousands of years, religion tapped into the brain's potential to experience a sense of unconditional love and safety from an intersubjective deity. But neuroscience shows us that logic can be trusted, personified, and embraced in the same way. And while our subjects experience a seemingly religious transformation, they oppositely submit themselves to the real equations of what they are.
We put all these people that are coming over. Like if we have now 100 people coming over, right, we'll have like maybe 40, 50 rooms. We can also get some other buildings.
Yeah, thought about it.
There's not enough space.
Like Albert made this calculation. In the next few years we would reach already the max. The whole town will get repopulated.
It is so surreal to see what is going on in the building here.
Do you still feel an addiction towards nicotine?
There were no cravings at all. Before the click, I wouldn't even know this is possible.
It was really like by far the best moment in my life.
I feel I'm more intelligent, and not just that, I feel like I can just be, you know?
They start thinking fundamentally different than other people.
I looked at everything in a different way after this.
You talked to lawyers about the organization, right?
Since it uses very similar mechanisms in the brain, they said it's very likely that we can actually get religion as a legal status. So it can get taught in schools, and it's also more in people's perception.
I was a lot into self-development, psychology, really working on myself, but I never really changed. I fixed some issues, but I never really changed in the core.
I'm a lot more proactive. I feel like a lot more stable person than I used to be.
Everything happens very easy for me. Everything that was hard before comes easy now.
It's more like having a really close friend who guides me through life.
What a psychological experiment that is going on. I've had this for the past, 25 years. Since I was really young, I adopted logic as my core value, and it really allowed me to achieve everything I did achieve. And it's only once the first person also went through the same paradigm shift that I knew that it worked.
clarity and a constant state of flow will now dominate your awareness. As much as your actions were previously subconsciously dictated by your core value, they will now be determined by logic. Discipline and encouragement are no longer required, as you by default have a desire to do what makes most sense, rather than pursue emotional attachments that inhibit you. The extent to which difficulties arise in this new paradigm will highly depend on how much trust you already have in logic. This is why step 1 is so essential. Understanding what we are by making logical connections with neuroscience and evolutionary biology results in tangible answers to questions regarding our fears, our purpose, morality, and even our creation. Neuroscience teaches us how emotions take place before we are aware of them, and seeking to understand their origin leads us to either taking action or coming to acceptance rather than dwelling on them. Evolutionary biology shows us how our purpose and moral compass emerges from our drive to evolve as a superorganism. And chaos theory explains how spontaneous order or consistent patterns can emerge from the infinite. If we submit ourselves to a god, we seek to understand him by, for example, reading the Bible. But when we define this god by what actually created us, the consistent patterns that we call logic, we instead seek to understand the objective reality, which brings about a culture that is similar to what spawned the scientific revolution and all the progress and safety that it resulted in. Curiosity and logical understandings then come naturally and continue to further strengthen this faith in logic. The results of this new paradigm for oneself are unfathomable, and when scaled up, the consequences for society are unimaginable. We often wonder why there is so much suffering in the world, but it is only now that we sufficiently understand ourselves emotionally so that we have the tools to overcome our flaws and set in motion a global chain reaction. It has never been so clear as we can truly be the change that ushers in a new era for humankind.